Hello. We are going to go through real quick and take a look at the old version of the Ransack file from June and compare it to the one that I've just released today to see what the actual differences are. I believe there are no differences here on the main page. The second page used to have back and front cover. Now I put a copy of the character sheet there. I don't know, kind of nice to look at it and get an idea for what the game is going to be all about. There is a expanded inner cover, which has more details on it, uh, including this hilarious disclaimer, which is, whatever, but it tells you what's in the book, that sort of thing. There is there was going to be full page artwork placed here, which is now here. This is a piece of work by Luke B. I don't actually know how to pronounce this in the last name, so I'm not going to butcher it, but he goes by Sketch Pro Luke. There were some edits to this. His original version had much more symbology that was the symbols of law and chaos, I think. Maybe just law. I don't quite recall. But I removed some of that and made it more Ransack appropriate. The forward has not changed, as far as I'm aware. The how to play, there may have been a little bit of updates here in terms of the text, as well as some updates to stature. The book uses stature more liberally in terms of degree of stature in a way that it didn't used to do. But otherwise, this is going to basically be the same. There might have been some other minor textual changes. I think this section probably also saw some minor textual changes, but not really any differences. Just trying to clarify some things that were confusing, a few poor choices of word. This section got slightly cleaned up just in terms of this extra aging and alignment section being kind of unnecessary. I might put some art in this bottom corner at some point, but these sections otherwise haven't really changed. Creating characters hasn't changed. Advanced classes are now way out on page 68. I did do a little bit of borders on some of the tables. Most of the tables in the book are still just free-floating, but some of them in a few different places, it felt appropriate to put borders on them, so I did. There's some minor textual changes here just to, explain things a little more thoroughly with the space available. Otherwise, nothing really changed. I did something that was surprisingly armor limit, none for magic user. People were like, oh, magic users can use any armor? It's like, that's really stupid and no one's going to think that, but whatever. I'm going to change it to say no armor instead. Fighter looks to be about the same. Something that this is a total aside, but Adobe Reader is extremely pathetic as a piece of technology. The images in here look really crappy compared to the way they look in Sumatra, and Adobe is lagging, like insanely bad, where Sumatra isn't. So strong recommend for Sumatra PDF Reader. This fighter may have gotten a little bit of text changes, but I don't think that the actual mechanical differences, I don't think there's any mechanical differences. There is a thing here about coordinating organized withdrawal from melee. I think that's the only actual difference. Everything else, some of the text in here about rolling for trauma and dismemberment got moved down into this due to hardness section, and I redefined how the aging penalties are explained in a way that I think is much more intuitive. But otherwise, I think this is basically mechanically identical. I don't think the magic user was touched at all. I don't think the cleric must have been touched. I think I realized there was a little bit of extra space here in terms of describing Rebuke Chaos, and I think I added some extra text just to make it clearer, as well as describe, hey, you can go down to the adventuring chapter. But this otherwise hasn't really changed. Spoiler alert, divine interventions are now in the book on a later page. The thief, I don't think this has changed. I guess there is sort of a weird edge case where the thief and some of the other characters that have this sort of evasion ability at level 4. The thief and those characters now have this thing that says attack rolls of 5 or less always miss, which is weird, right? Because if an enemy rolls a 1 through a 5, they're probably going to miss anyway, but there are situations at high level play where this becomes kind of interesting. So, is what it is. I don't think there's any other changes in there. Equipment and services haven't really changed. There might have been a text update here somewhere, but how about silvered weapons? Costs double. Finally got some art in here. This art placeholder early in the book was really ticking me off, so I got that in. The text on these pages I don't believe has really changed. There is this thing about none, like no body armor being AC 11. This was just something that was, new players come into the game. What's unarmored? I don't know what it is. Well, it's AC 11. There you go. Easy peasy. I think that's the same otherwise. General goods, most likely the same. I can't imagine that this would have changed or why. So another funny thing, by the way, about Adobe and Sumatra, I'm hitting the page down and page up key on my keyboard. In Sumatra, that does what you would expect. In Adobe, it does not. It doesn't quite go a full page length. So that's pathetic. But is what it is. Another reason not to use Sumatra. So anyway, alchemical supplies. I don't know that anything new showed up in here. I think these are going to be just about the same. It looks like there might have been one line of text added somewhere. Probably something about triggering item saves for these top two items when reduced to 0 hit points. Catalog items probably hasn't changed. At a glance, it looks like it hasn't. I don't think anything here has changed. This page got relayed out slightly to use a row format, so thieving supplies are on the top half of the page and clerical stuff is on the bottom half. We'll see if I stick to that or if that's nice. That's just something I'm kind of experimenting with. I do think I added some potions here. Now, these are exactly the same costs as a magic user making them, but this gives the thief the direct access to these things, which is great. There's some additional rules in the combat section about how to adjudicate invisibility with backstabs, which will come up in terms of this stuff. I did also just go ahead and say, you know what? Shine job, medical procedure. You can gain permanent infravision for $600. That seems nice. Actually, what was the cost of Twilight? Yeah, Twilight's 30. So that's a reasonable early game. Your second adventure, you come in with Twilight drops and you play for a while until you get to 600. So let's see, crafting. I doubt this page has changed. It looks like there might have been one line of text on the right side of the page, but I don't know what that would be. Nothing is standing out to me. Well, I think we will just move on, but it looks like there might have been one line of text changed on there. Magic arms and armor. I don't think these will... Well, I guess there is one change, which was to add costs for enchanting robes, which are actually more than plate. There was some question about could you enchant them, what would it cost? Would it cost the same as leather? And I actually have currently opted that it costs more than plate to enchant robes, something that's not really intended as armor to gain a magical protection bonus. But there's cases where I think somebody might actually reasonably want to do this, so there it is. These pages, I doubt they've really changed. I can't imagine how they would have. Clerical services look like they... There's some finagling in terms of the language around what it means to travel across planes or ethereal travel. The term ethereal was confusing for some people. I went ahead and just changed it back to planar, which is fine. I think that makes the most sense because you really are traveling to other planes. But that'll be something borne out more in the future. Maybe more in the monster book or bonus book. I don't know. We'll see. Metropolitan stuff. I doubt this page has changed. Construction hasn't changed. Henchmen hasn't changed. Hirelings will not have changed. Hireling types will not have changed. These will get finished eventually, but currently not. Adventuring hasn't really changed. The skills have not changed. There is a new page here, unique skills, which goes into further detail about how sensory abilities are adjudicated, how use magic device actually isn't imagined to work because this was never actually described previously. And then there was a previous section in the appendix about rebuking chaos. This has been moved up, and maybe the text has been cleaned up a little bit. There's a bit here about automatically disintegrating once you're very high level. But otherwise, this is, right after the adventure skills section, we now have some unique skills section for a few different things. And there's a note up here about sweep attacks and backstabs being described under fantastic combat. So logistics, it hasn't really changed. There's a page here, we're stuck now what? This used to be in an appendix. I moved it up to be just after logistics. I think it makes a lot of sense at this point in the book, and I wanted to get stuff out of the appendix. It didn't really need to be in there. This page is still a whole bunch of TBD. Well, who knows when it'll be done. This stuff hasn't really changed. I did add some art here at the bottom of the page. It's kind of funny. There's multiple references in there if you're into that. This page will not have changed, although you may have missed in the previous book that some text around major recovery was altered. And then, of course, temporary hit points have been replaced by the concept of guard points. Works in a very specific fashion. There is some new art here, which I like, the resurrection art. Yeah. These, I doubt these have changed. I don't see why they would have. Combat, I don't really think combat will have changed. It's possible that I made some small changes in here. For example, removing full retreat from the initiative section, considering there's now dedicated rules for that. The terminology for opportunity attacks has actually gone away in favor of, well, here it just now says prevents foes from easily escaping. But it's going to, in the withdrawal section, it'll talk about free attacks. I don't think anything here will have changed at a glance. No. Missiles and melee. This table was wasting some space. This is now cleaned thinner, but firearms have changed significantly. There used to be this whole thing about, this level of firearm beats this level of armor, which was really, really finicky, and I really didn't like adjudicating that in play, because all of a sudden it becomes a question about, what is this enemy heroic, super heroic, what is he, what kind of armor does he have, blah, blah, blah. And it's annoying to describe all that stuff. This new thing sort of change. You'll have to read this section, but basically the idea is going to be that firearms are penetrate normal stature monsters. There's no more question about, I had to hit AC 11 or whatever, any of that crap. It's just, if you have penetration, normal stature monsters, you just deal damage directly. There's no attack roll anymore with firearms in this situation. And then, of course, armor proof, any magic armor, heroic stature, none of that shit works. There is rapid fire, which lets you effectively do something similar to sweep attacks against 2 and 3 hit dice opponents. So that's also nice. But yeah, go ahead and read that whole section. I'm not going to go into that anymore right this moment. I think I probably also changed splashing to be simpler as well. But you'll have to take a look at that. Combat maneuvers, this page didn't really change other than the addition of the backstab section. Go ahead and read that basically, but that's just adjudicating how you get in, when you can really get backstab, how I imagine that works, and how invisibility functions in the case of backstabbing. Also, the fact that the thief can avoid a lot of incoming attacks by successfully getting backstabs. Brawl, this has been ongoing. There's been changes and changes and changes to the modifiers section. This is changed again to be simplified even further. You'll have to read that. I did also put this bit in here about lucky breaks, where snake eyes or boxcars do actually matter and can change things to be a failure or a success. Ending combat, this section is all new. You're going to have to look at it and read it. The morale hasn't really changed. In theory, at some point, I'm going to expand morale. This is something that's been requested. We'll get to that. I don't know that I'm going to try to beef up melee withdrawal. We're going to play with these rules and see what happens. We're going to see how they feel. I didn't really like the way that piece of art looked on the page, so I put it in a circle. I don't know. Maybe that's worse, but it is what it is. This section, aerial combat and mass combat are going to happen eventually, but in the meantime, I don't know where they're probably going to go into an appendix. And advanced movement, I kind of hate in the extreme, but I left it in striked out. I don't know. We'll see. I got to think about that. Combat examples. Oh, that was one thing that I did change. Back up in order of events. Is it order of events? No. Charging. Charging supersedes initiative results for melee. Charging supersedes initiative results in most cases. This is now this now specifies melee only, which has implications for like missile fire or wands or whatever. Now initiative matters for that directly, which is part of the reason why I felt that the advanced movement no longer matters as much. Combat examples I didn't touch, although I do think there might be some mistakes in here that need to be cleaned up. Fast and Furious combat would not have changed. Character options. The first page will not have changed. I don't know. There may be some changes in here, and I don't know if we're going to be able to find them. Gorilla and Acrobat, yeah, Gorilla and Acrobat will have changed because they now instead of this bit about imposing a penalty on opportunity attacks, they it just says withdraw from combat without risk of melee attack. So you can always withdraw from melee without risk of attack if you're an Acrobat or a Gorilla. This Gorilla, not the monkey Gorilla. I don't think anything else here will have changed too much. Marshals. I'm trying to think if there was any reason any of these would have changed. Barbarian got rewritten because I really didn't. I was having some trouble with the previous one. The new one has its own potential issues, but I guess I think I'm happy with it. You got to read it. We'll see what we think. Nothing is going to change here on that page, I don't think. Don't think anything is going to change on this page. Kind of hard to tell. I don't think anything will change here or here. Oh, something that has changed. A lot of the movie quotes changed just because I watched some of these movies and found out they were terrible, or they were not appropriate, like they were not fantasy adventure. I've changed out some of the quotes to be more appropriate. That's an ongoing process. It's not done yet, but we're getting there. These have not changed. These probably haven't changed. Changed. Some of this text here, some of the backgrounds that refer to stature will have changed, or they should have referred to stature, and they do now refer to stature instead. Stature is being used more to describe mechanics that change when you go from normal to heroic to super heroic and so on. I don't think these will have changed. I did go ahead and change the art back from the armored up dog to Rupert for personal reasons. Leave it at that, Lamau. But I can't take Rupert out of the book. Madcap, it hasn't changed mechanically, but I changed up how it was visualized in the book, as well as named the traits. I don't know if these names are the best, but they are something. So there they are. These will page looks slightly different, but I don't know why that would be. I think maybe it's just indenting, some kind of layout or white space was fixed. These should not really have changed. Advanced classes, I doubt this page has changed. I doubt, well, I guess I shouldn't say I doubt. I did rewrite the Artificer text. Did I write the Artificer? Yeah. The text has been rewritten. I really think this is much more clear now in terms of how this is described. I was having some issues with explaining this to someone who is not, like, you know, steeped in RPGs. There's, of course, the Artificer art as well, which I think is pretty cool. Well, it is what it is. Good luck with that. The Assassin probably hasn't changed. Something I did do in this book was to actually finally go through with spelling and grammar and fix spelling and grammar. Since I didn't have that enabled because it was annoying to have the book constantly telling me about spelling and grammar. Oops, I have accidentally gone to the wrong page. We will attempt to go back up to the Oracle. Paladin. I think these have changed. Ranger will not have changed. Dual classing stuff hasn't changed. These will not have changed, although I'm slightly worried. I thought there was one in here. No, I think we're good. Everything here is good. I don't think these have changed. Oh yeah, resilience. Used to say oh no. Yeah. Resilience got massively buffed from advantage on TND to immunity to TND. So you can completely become immune to TND with a perk. But considering the value of the perks, I really don't think this was ever going to get taken if it did not. If this did not grant immunity. But well, that's that. Casting spells. I doubt this page has changed. This here looks like it hasn't. Oh, there's another. There must be some new spells because we're now up to 48 instead of 47. Now I don't know if those are actually properly new, or if some of them have just been. I guess they must be. There must have been new items added to the lists. Although some not, there's still a fair number of spells that are not yet written, and I really didn't get to writing as many of these as I thought that I would. So, in fact, did I write any of them? I guess I wrote Wild Discharge. That's a full pager, which is in the book. I don't know that I wrote any of these other ones. In fact, some of the ones I added were like Wonderment, which is not written, or Demon Host, which is not written. I don't know what the other 4 spells in the first section would be, but we could sit here and try to find them, but I don't think I want to do that. You'll have to figure them out yourself, I suppose. Feels a little cheap to make you do that, but this video is already getting pretty long. So there were some, I mean, occasionally I do rename things, like Bloodlink got renamed to Bound in Blood. And apparently, this ordered wrong? What happened here? Beast Attraction, Beckett. Oh, Bound in Blood. Yeah. Bound in Blood meant it went further down. Yeah. Okay. I'm just curious if I can find even one of the spells that got added. It must be around here somewhere. Pulse Life is 16. Oh, Electric Bolts. That's the one that got added. Electric Bolts got added. Well, there are definitely a few more in these 3 rows which got added. I don't, or columns rather, but you'll have to figure them out. So we're going to skip ahead, I suppose, down to, well, what are we going to skip to? I guess we could skip down to Divine Words. Don't have the... This one's not set up as well. This Adobe, I hardly ever use. Not set up properly for this, but Divine Words are what they are, running the game. I think I added one more page here about Wandering Monsters. This does need to get updated. I had a conversation with someone that I think gave me some good ideas, and I might turn this into a 2-page spread, but this is just sort of how I run the game in terms of Wandering Monsters. I think it's probably the most secret ingredient to making the whole dungeon crawling game functional is the random encounter. Appendices. Did I skip something? Focus playstyles. Oh, the conversion guide got moved up out of the appendix. That's what happened. Yeah, okay, so that's not in the appendix, it's now up here, but it's otherwise the same as it's always been. The appendices themselves, I don't think these are going to have really changed. Kind of look the same to me. This Rebuke Chaos stuff got moved up further in the book, as we saw. These otherwise haven't really changed. 12 Treasures is now a actual text in the book rather than an image. The Divine Interventions are in the book. This is super high level cleric stuff. Is what it is. And otherwise, oh, there are a bunch more name lists in the book. Name lists. We added High Elves. We added Wood Elves. We filled out the Gnome and Red Cap list. We added the red brand, the Alcades, and the highlights. So that's like 5 new pages of text right there. Otherwise, I think that's it. So sorry, this is kind of long, but is what it is. I'm going to leave it off here and probably go eat dinner. Thank you.